Next up, we have What's a Future Funk by LemKuuja, featured in Geometry Dash is my understanding. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I'm a professionally trained musician, a composer, and my objective here is to explain things in a way so that you don't have to be one to understand what is happening here, musically. So if you like the sound of that, make sure you're following the channel, subscribe to the channel, whatever term you want to use, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, become a member. Once again, everybody, members get early access, artists, all of you, I want to collaborate with you if you want guitars or Mongolian throat singing, you know, the little kind of thing, or anything else. I have a whole spiel for that at the end of the video, so stick around for that. Other than that, I have the disclaimers showing on your screen right now, so go ahead and pause the video if you want to read them in full. Otherwise, let's go ahead and start. What's a future funk? Let's go. Okay, so we start with a few elements already. We have a very distant set of drums giving us an initial beat. We have a synth giving us our initial motif being the smallest version of your musical idea, the seed, the essence from which everything else comes from, there in the melody. And we have a very, very low quality audio sample of a conversation happening. Very low quality. Let's see where this goes. We are developing. Oh, and we do have one last percussion giving us a little bit of extra, like the beep. Almost sounds like it almost sounds like a smoke detector, like a smoke detector when it's running out of battery. Let's see where this goes. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so we then bring in the actual drums, we have a little bit of bass, and we bring in the guitars, playing some good old funk. So, one of the things about funk that separates it from so many other genres is that funk relies on something called groove. Groove is the old term for what we nowadays call vibe. Vibe, in this case, groove is the amalgamation, the sum of its parts. Each individual instrument is playing something relatively different, usually being just tied in roughly by them having the same time signatures or the same key signatures, just the baseline stuff. But other than that, they're usually playing different rhythms. Every instrument is doing something different. And it results in the case of if you were to play any of the individual parts, you would probably not be able to tell that they're all playing the same song, except when once you put everything together and once you listen to the whole thing, you get the groove. It sounds very, very nice. So we're having the drums giving us a pretty nice straightforward beat with electronic drums, which is fairly uncommon when it comes to funk. Usually in funk, you're going to be using analog drums or a drum kit. And yeah, it sounds like future funk is just funk with more electronic elements, which does contradict funk, because funk is one of those genres that was super popular in the 70s, and back in the 70s electronic music was nowhere near the sensation it was today, particularly because digital instruments were nowhere near as widely available. We barely had the keyboards. Back then, it was mostly amplifiers, and then guitars, basses, the horn section for a funk band, which, by the way, a horn section for funk bands would be 2 trumpets, trombone, and a saxophone. Either 1 or 2 saxophones, depending on the band, but you would usually have these very, very much. I know that most soundtracks that you would hear it from that is surprisingly filled with good old funk is Mario Kart. Most Mario Kart games have funk on them, especially in the newer ones. The newer Mario Kart games have a lot of like good old funk for a lot of their stuff. So yeah, we're having that right now. We're having the guitars playing in the traditional funk syncopated rhythms. So syncopation Syncopation means offbeat. Means that the drum is playing and the guitars are playing against it. So let's see, and Japanese funk fusion is soul based. Funk fusion is a different thing. So funk fusion usually means that you are engaging in funk while fusing it with other genres. It's more like experimental stuff. And yes, the Japanese funk fusion scene is absolutely insane. 100%. Clearbones, welcome today. How you doing? So let's see. Okay, awesome. So yeah, let's see where this goes. Imagine that there's a alpha guy, Gen Alpha guy listening that's talking about funk. Okay, so yes, the other one is funk. Funk is meme music. Funk is meme music, and it is. I personally don't mind it. I personally find it funny because funk is simply scoring. It's music scoring. Is the same kind of thing that it by itself, funk is not that great a genre. It's not something that I would sit down and listen to. But once you put it on something as something, especially for memes, yeah, you engage in scoring. It has the same effect as atonal. Atonal music by itself, I highly doubt there's many people that would sit down and just listen to it for the enjoyment of it. But the moment you put it on film or a video game or something like that, yeah, it serves as a purpose. It does serve a purpose after all. So yeah, let's see where this goes. So you can hear, right? The guitar hitting when the drums aren't. That's syncopation. And as you can hear, one of the curious things about funk is that unlike other genres that are super dependent on your motif, with funk, you can pass the time a lot by just experiencing the groove. That is one of the very, very curious things about funk in general, that it contradicts a bunch of the conventions of music in general, because usually in music you want your instruments relatively aligned and playing mostly the same things or playing around the same stuff, so that the contrast that you get is deviations from the norm rather than the norm being the deviations. And in funk, you get the deviations. These instruments are all playing different things, which is, it's true for most genres, but in general, they're going to be playing variations of the same thing rather than playing completely different things altogether. So right now, what we are having the guitars doing is, how old is this track? I don't know. So we are having the guitars playing a riff. So riffs are a more contemporary version of motifs being put through an ostinato. Ostinato meaning that you repeat something over and over and over and over again, and then that being played on a contemporary instrument such as a guitar or a bass or a keyboard, something like that, usually along the lines of a more contemporary modern genre such as funk, rock, metal, anything like that. So we replaced the actual motif, the initial motif, with the riff and the groove. And in other types of music, usually your music would collapse under the absence of the motif. However, in this case, the riff itself is very nice, and wrong button, and the groove makes up for the absence of the motif. As I've mentioned in other videos, motifs are very temperamental and are very jealous. If you're not constantly giving the spotlight to your motif, it is going to collapse your music. However, funk doesn't quite have that problem. And it's one of those very, very strange phenomena of music that we have this massive exception to almost all the rules right here. Let's see where it goes. And every once in a while, we're getting a bit of extra percussion here and there. Variation on the riff. We bring in some vocals and So we're bringing a variation. I don't think it's the same motif as we had before. We're bringing in a new version of a new riff into this, and we bring in the electric synth, the synthesizer. It sounds to have like it's a very, very nice warm tone, playing some chords and engaging in that syncopation, still giving us that very, very wonderful groove. The drums have changed the beat, and let's see where this goes. And I like how we are kind of engaging in side chaining over here, kind of just rotating throughout the instruments. So side chaining is when you hit your drums, or when your bass drum hits, whatever is being side chained gets turned down and then back up, right? I've seen two types. One is that the gradual, like turning down a knob and then back up, and the other one being the binary, on and off, kind of like pushing a button. And we're kind of doing that, kind of just chopping the audios and rotating throughout the different instruments that we're having throughout the ensemble, which is something fairly common in funk, for you to rotate around the ensemble, usually in the context of solos or melodies or whatever it is. But we are having this kind of thing. So let's see. So yes, if we were to be chopping the audio, right? So we were to be chopping, let's say we had track number 1, track number 2, track number 3 playing, and the way we would be doing, so let's say this is the keyboard number 1, we have guitar, and then we have, I don't know, synth number 2, keyboard number 2. And basically the way we would be doing this is that there would be spots that only the keyboard is playing on, and in the meantime, the other two are not playing in. Then when the keyboard plays, the other two are going to be, when the guitar plays, the other two are not going to be playing. And then we swap them around like that, just bringing forward the different audio waves for these. It's a very, very cool way of cycling through the instruments. And the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is, what's the melody? What's the melody? Let's see where this goes. We bring in this vocal sample of singing. We bring in some singing, and this is not, like, the singing is not part of, it's not a driving force of the song. It's a sample being played. This is... do you remember the lyrics for "They Never Give You Apart"? Maybe. And we're having some semblances of melodies here, but none of these really, truly does, like, resemble the original motif that we heard. Song might not have a motif. It had one at the beginning. We did get exposed to an initial motif, but it seems like this one is just going through the grooves. Like, the groove has stayed somewhat consistent, but let's see where this goes. There we go. There's the horn section. We bring in the groove. And again, we're just focusing on the... And okay, so we are having something very important. One of the guitars is still playing a similar riff to what we were having on this one over here. It's just playing chords instead of a single note, adapted to this version of the drums. And now we are bringing in syncopated strings, which, yeah, string section being violins, that kind of thing. Let's see. Very cool. We bring these vocals. We're chopping the vocals. For LemKuuja. Nice. So we are bringing in singing from... It doesn't sound like like the singing is from this song. It sounds like it's another sample that we put on top of this groove, and it's working pretty nicely. these are still not the melodies that we've been using. And here is where we're starting to run the risk of the song just feeling like a series of sections rather than feeling like one singular work. If I were to skip around and the song doesn't sound like it belongs to itself, then we are leaning a little too much in the realm of introducing too much new material. Now, while this will not be overwhelming, this might still feel disjointed because we are not making a too much of an active effort to maintain the same groove or maintain a level of consistency. We do have some semblance of the riffs being used in this section as we did in the one before, which can work, and so far it is working for me. However, this does have a law of diminishing returns, so unless we start revisiting some of the material we've already done, this will start running into the issue that the genre of djent runs into a lot. So djent being a fairly niche genre that is like the intelligentsia of metalheads, where it's basically playing extremely complex riffs over and over and over again. But then the problem with these is that you will have riff A followed by riff B followed by riff C, then D, E, F, G, and you continue going and going and going and going, and you never revisit any of the previous material. And in music, you want to revisit some of your previous material, you want to reuse some of your previous material, because each individual song, each individual track that you make needs to have an identity of its own one way or another, unless you're making a transitionary piece. And transitionary pieces, that's a completely separate thing, and even those need to be able to have an identity of their own. So if you're not able to distinguish where song 1 starts and song 3 ends, then yeah, there's not much to remember. And if your listeners can't remember your music, that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem, and that is one of the risks that funk runs into a lot. So it does run into that a lot. The funk does, where you're having all of these parts that are so independent from one another that it's pretty difficult to remember specific songs unless you introduce some singing and some choruses and that kind of stuff in between the rest, which is usually what happens. You're either going to have melodies being done by your horn section, or you're going to bring in like strings doing this kind of stuff, or you're going to have a singer coming in and singing lyrics, a verse, chorus, that kind of stuff. And yes, fairly, you should never heard of this in my life. Yeah, no, djent is kind of niche in the metal community. It's one of those things that it's more niche than prog metal. So yeah, it's one of those things that not ideal. And anyway, let's see where it goes. We have a little wink there to Never Gonna Give You Up, yeah? Savuro, welcome today, how you doing? So yeah, this section over here, pretty nice. We are hearing some good material. We're hearing very catchy vocals, very catchy melodies. The problem that we're having here now is, where was this before? Is this going to repeat again? So that is a risk that LemKuuja is running over here, because each individual one of these sectors so far have been very nice. I really like the groove, but let's see where it goes. Okay, this part does resemble ones back here. It does resemble back here. Jack, welcome to it. Ooh. Okay, so we take back, we pull away, we filter away the drums and the groove, we kind of obfuscate it, and we bring in this sample of some speaking again, which makes it sound like we're scoring something, and Yes. So yeah, we do have like the riff over here resembled one of the riffs being played a little bit earlier. So it does have that sense of continuity. It's kind of resembling more of a rondo than anything else. So in instrumental music, you have to rely on something called form. Form is the structure of your music, and it's one of those things that in instrumental music, it's a lot more difficult to tell because you have to start analyzing, the motif, how it's developed, the surrounding parts to it. Because in a song is going to be a lot more easy to tell because, okay, this is the verse, this is the chorus, this is the intro, this is the outro, this is a break, this is whatever. However, in instrumental music, you're going to have to go through letters to determine this. And the rondo is a very peculiar type of structure where you have your section A, which is going to be your essential central force. Then you go to section B, you go for a contrast, then you go back to section A, which usually is going to be an A prime. The apostrophe means that it's a variation, so it's still the same material, you're just doing a reimagination of it. Then you go to section C, then to a section A, either A prime, or A double prime, then over to section D, and whatever, and you just continue cycling through these. And right now, what this is giving is a type of like delayed rondo, where we had an intro, then we jumped into the rondo formula, which works, which is a good formula. Ghost, welcome today, how you doing? Let's see where this goes. So, thank you for the $10. Remind me after the video to log this. Let's see where this goes. Okay, so and we have the string there. Alright, new section, variation of what we were just doing. We bring in the new drums. Very nice groove. And yes, right now, this one, we change we're changing the drums a little bit. And most importantly, we're sidechaining more of the elements here. Let's see where it goes. Okay, let me just finish these. So now we have a consistent melody, because this one still resembles back here. Very nice. And by the way, back here was going off the ramp. Off the ramp being a colloquial term that I use. Was my computer, sorry. Colloquial. Colloquial, by that I mean there's no official academic definition for this, or at least I'm not going to use it for the sake of simplicity. And off the ramp is what I call a transition. It can be as short as a couple of beats, as it was here. It can be as long as an entire section. And the purpose of it is to make your listener feel suspended up in the air at the mercy of inertia, waiting to see where you land. And in this case, it is basically, I think the electronic music world calls it a hook, is right before the drop. So let's see where it goes. So we bring this, and now we are engaging in a little bit of rhythmic displacement. And Yeet, welcome today, how you doing? So yes, we're engaging some rhythmic displacement, which is basically we're using silence. Now we are sidechaining, we're using the sidechaining as rhythmic displacement to just push things around. Rhythmic displacement is a very, very common technique to use in funk, so it makes sense. Very, very nice. Let's see. And I think the future part of the future funk in this case for the genre, if I were to guess, is that we are introducing principles and elements from electronic music into funk, which is for a lack of a better term, a more retro genre nowadays. Similar to, in the same vein as rock and roll, jazz, or even blues. Let's see where this goes. So we're still doing chopping this as well. So on top of sidechaining, we are kind of like chopping the piece, the individual samples as well. This is really fun. Let's see where it goes. Ooh, changed completely. So now we bring yet a new beat for the drums, and it's interesting how despite the drums changing in the beats so much, hasn't fully changed the feeling of groove, and I'm just gonna chalk it to. I'm just gonna chalk this to funk, to this being funk, because that's one of the things about funk, that groove is such a vague thing that it just has a singular feeling of groove. So yes, we're having that. We are now bringing the focus on the guitar, doing the good old funky syncopation that we always get with the guitar, and we are having those syncopated strings at the top. Let's see where it goes. We filter it back in again. We bring back the vocals, resembling some of the earlier stuff, bringing us some semblance. So it took us a moment. It did take a moment. It was a risky move, but LemKuuja is recapitulating, is reusing material, is bringing stuff back in. So this no longer feels disjointed. It just took a moment for it to feel, for us to fit, for it to assemble itself. So that, as I said, it was a risky move, especially once you're at the beginning, but now everything is falling in place. So, recapitulation. Recapitulation is when you repeat something you've done before, usually 1-to-1 or with very, very little variation, or you're revisiting material in some form. So let's see how it goes. So yes, over here we're having, so right now what we're having mainly is that every once in a while we are hearing some of the synths doing a little bit of arpeggios at the top. So arpeggio being when you play a chord one note at a time. So let me give you an example, right? I have my keyboard right here. Here's C major. That's the block chord, and then the arpeggios, you're just playing it one note at a time. So very, very simple, especially once you're adding it as an extra adornment. Let's see. There's no reason to live? What the hell are you talking about? I'm gonna give you a reason right now. Pizza is nice, and you should eat more of it. And not in excess, but there's plenty of reason to eat pizza. And you can't eat pizza if you're dead. So there you go. There's no reason to do it without you. I don't care. I don't listen to the lyrics. I can't read. Let's see where it goes. I'm gonna extend the same thing to the computer here. So interestingly enough, we are using a chorus that never existed in the song. We just, even though there was no chorus in this song, there was no chorus. Yet, getting 18 plus ads, I disabled those from my end. So I don't know, man. I disabled those from my end. I try to keep those out of my stuff when I pick the ads. So that might be a regional thing. Don't forget that usually ads are tailored towards you and what you do with your computer, because I have them disabled from my end, like from my channel's end. I try not to get them there. So yeah. Anyway, let's see where it goes. We're having a little bit of disc scratching. Yeah, most of these are voice samples, and now it's dying out. We're removing the layers one by one, and there you go. We just go one last go of the drums, and it ends with that. Man, so interesting that we used a sample, like the vocal sample, we're playing a chorus that we didn't have before, but because it kept a similar groove, it felt like it was recapitulating a chorus. Man, that was a lot of fun. There you have it. That was What's a Future Funk by LemKuuja, featured in Geometry Dash, is my understanding. Once again, everybody, this has been a Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I'm a professionally trained musician, a composer, and my objective here is to explain things in a way so that you don't have to be one to understand what's happened here musically. So, if you're watching this in the YouTube video archive thing, thank you for watching. Make sure you're following the channel, subscribe to the channel, whatever term you want to use. Like the video, share the video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, become a member. Once again, everybody, if we somehow hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube before Christmas of 2025, which is a real possibility right now, it blows my mind. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I do not take this for granted, by the way. I am grateful every single day that I get to do this, even and that any of you likes it to begin with. So thank you. So yes, if we somehow hit 10,000, I will take a single fan fiction of the choice of the community, and I will fully produce, record, and voice act an audiobook for it. We also have a member who offered to do a Discord Nitro giveaway. We might do other like video game giveaways, that kind of stuff. If you want to contribute or you have any other ideas, let me know. We will make as much of it happen as possible. This has to be achieved through legitimate and honest means only. No account duping, no botting, no buying followers, no alting, no rat behaviors like that. Go share the videos, the streams with your friends, with your families friends, with your friends' families. Those are two distinct concepts, by the way. Go share these with your online and offline communities. Use the hype function on YouTube. I don't know how it works, but I have a group on the Discord that does that, so go check them out. Link down below. Artists, LemKuuja or any other artist on YouTube. I want to collaborate. I'm open to collaborate with anyone. If anybody wants, whether any of my musical skills, whether it is guitars, Mongolian throat singing, you know, the good old some voice acting, regular singing, or help figuring out something, a composition or anything like that, just let me know. Reach out. We'll make it work as much as possible. So there's that. If you're in the audience and you know any artists that could benefit from that, let them know. Please do not harass anyone. Please do not spam anyone. Be cool about it. Don't be a rat. Members get early access to the content. I schedule the videos for the week on Saturdays. And if you're a paid member or on YouTube, regardless of your tier, you get access to the videos when I schedule them on Saturdays. So become a member today. If you want to listen to this without me interrupting every 3.5 seconds, I will be linking it in the description down below. If you want to request a song and you're not on the live stream, check the pinned comment on this video. It has the instructions on what to do. And if you want to catch the streams when they happen live, we aim for Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Central European Time. If you're not in Europe, do not worry. We have the full up-to-date streaming schedule showing in your local time zone in both Discord and Twitch, both linked down below. So, if you live in Tanjung and you're like, yeah, but what time is 6 p.m. in Hungary? I don't live there. Don't worry. Discord, Twitch, both linked down below, and they show the schedule in your local time zone. And follow the gaming channel. I have a gaming channel because, of course, I have a gaming channel. I'm on YouTube. What else could I possibly have? Games are Basterd. That's where the recordings of the gaming after shows go. They get recorded on the main channel, and then the recordings go there. We've been playing through Silent Hill F recently, Vintage Story. I have so many other plans, dude. I have to catch up with so many games, so we're playing through there. Link down below, or just search on YouTube. Same username as James R. Basterd. Just swap the J for a G, and you got it. And yeah. There you go. That was What's a Future Funk by LemKuuja. Very interesting use of having very little motifs, but just carrying something by pure groove. Very, very, very cool stuff. But yeah, let's move on.